What's going on, Legionnaires, and welcome back to Comic Breakdown. If you guys are new to the channel, do me a favor and hit that sub button, hit that notification bell, make sure you're not missing any of the awesome content we have coming out. And we're going to be starting today's videos off with the Hellfire Gala, the much anticipated X-Men event that has been building up for quite some time now. And this week, they've released 3 issues that are regarding the Hellfire Gala. And it all begins in Marauders issue number 21. Now, I'm going to go ahead and create a playlist for the Hellfire Gala. I will leave it down in the description as well as the top of this video. So be sure to check that out regarding all future issues for the Hellfire Gala. Now, this is written by Chris Claremont and Gary Dugan. Artist is John Bolton and Matteo Lolli. And for those that don't know, this is going to be a 12-part series. So this is going to be taking up the entire X-Men line, just like they did with the 10 of Swords event. And with that being said, let's dive into this breakdown. Alright guys, so we are finally here. We are finally diving into the Hellfire Gala. There's supposed to be some giant reveal that the mutants are going to tell everybody. Because this party, they've invited everybody, literally everybody. From the Shi'ar Empire to the Avengers to Doctor Doom. We're gonna see a little bit of everybody from the Marvel Universe. But this story, it picks us up with Kate Pryde, Sebastian Shaw, and Emma Frost. And right now, they are in preparation because this is all about to begin. And first and foremost, we have to point out how amazing the attire is for each individual. The time that was taken for the artist to craft each individual wardrobe for this specific event. It's really a great talent, and it really shows that these artists, they really know the characters, because the outfits that they're wearing really does, it shows the personality of the character. And we'll go more into that as we start to see like Magneto and stuff like that. Because Magneto, he's completely just pimped out in this. It's absolutely amazing. But right now, this event is so important to all of mutant kind. Because right now, everybody is watching them. All eyes are on them. Be it Wakanda, be it the Avengers, or people outside of their solar system. They have so much riding on the success of this gala tonight. Now, telepathically, Emma Frost gets in communication with Domino and the rest of X-Force. Because right now, X-Force is kind of running security for the gala event. And Emma Frost gives X-Force the green light. The green light to open up all of the gates to more than just mutants. And with the gates being activated, that's where we see the gate in New York City. And we have the Avengers getting met by Tempo, greeting them, welcoming them to the Hellfire Gala. Now, each guest of Krakowan, they have to wear some kind of special flower, and it's kind of their passport in and out of Krakowan. And so we see Captain Marvel, we see Thor, Captain America, Blade, She-Hulk, and a few other individuals get their flowers, and they enter the gateway. And as they come through, they're met by Emma Frost, they're met by Sebastian Shaw, and Kate Pryde. And Emma Frost, she lets them know, I know up to this point, you guys have questioned a lot about mutant kind, of exactly who we have become. But they're hoping that tonight strengthens any kind of frayed bonds that they have between them. The last thing anybody wants is the children to bear the cost of old grudges and miscommunications. And she lets everybody know that it's for them that they have asked everybody here today. Because regardless if they're human, if they're mutant, or if they're something completely else, they are all of this one world. And while she's telling the Avengers all of this information, we see the arrival of the Fantastic Four. We see the arrival of Iron Man. And of course, Iron Man didn't take a portal. Of course, he's not going to wear one of the flowers that they're requiring everybody to wear. As soon as he lands, he's already trying to get under the skin of Kid Omega. But he also lets Kid Omega know that Kid Omega's not going to be able to get into his mind, because he's wearing some sunglasses to protect him from that. And as these two are having their little spat back and forth, we see a green portal open up. And from this portal, we see the one and only, the fantastic, my favorite, Doctor Doom. For Emma Frost, it was kind of a bittersweet pill for her to swallow inviting Doctor Doom, especially after after the way that he has treated mutant kind. But if they want this to work, they have to invite everybody. And that includes the Russian and Madriporean diplomats arriving with Ruben Brushu, the United Kingdom's ambassador. And while these individuals, they may love their posturing, there's most humans that will arrive with open hearts and open minds. And of course, not everybody is using these freaking portals. Everybody's just kind of trying to do their own thing, make their own entrance. And of course, Doctor Strange is absolutely no exception. And we see him make his entrance, but realizing like for once, he's finally underdressed for an event. Now this is where we see Reed Richards and the rest of the Fantastic Four making their way into the gala, only to be intercepted by Professor X. And Professor X, he thanks him for accepting this invitation because he was really worried after their last encounter that he wouldn't even come. But Reed Richards lets him know that the children really wanted to attend this event, and that is the only reason that they are really here. But he also wanted to say something directly to his face. And he walks up to him, whispers something in his ear, and then just walks away. And Professor X looking like he's just completely stunned. And as everybody is making their way inside the gala, this is when Emma Frost telepathically gives a big warm welcoming to everybody that is attending. And right off the bat, she lets everybody know that this isn't going to be like the one and only Hellfire Gala. She says that this is going to be one of many Hellfire Galas that they plan to have. Now tonight her goal is to build some bridges between all of these nations, to connect everybody, because the gifts that mutant kind have to offer up to this point is something that she wants to give to the world in some way, shape, or form. And as for our first display of what Krakoa can truly offer, this is when Rhapsody comes on stage. And she comes on stage playing a single string living organism instrument that can only be grown on Krakoa. And of course the UK ambassador and the human ambassadors from Russia and Madripoor, they're unimpressed. They see it as just tricks and gimmicks, if you will. But Emma Frost continues on and lets us know that Rhapsody will be accompanied by their telepaths, the 5-in-1 and Marvel Girl. And with all of this combined, it kind of unleashes some butterflies that will not only carry the sound, but also the experience of what it's like to play like a master. And we see all of these butterflies fly out into the crowd and land on each individual. Of course, Doctor Doom chewing away his butterfly. And as it touches them, you hear a loud gasp come from the crowd. And these butterflies, it stays on them for only a moment, and then it slowly drifts off. Now, working together, the mutants were able to share just one small gift of something that they could offer the world. But with all of this combined, it creates a beautiful symphony. And with the opening coming to a close, everybody breaks off into their own little thing. Everybody goes in their own direction. Everybody starts enjoying the party in their own way. We see the Thing, Bishop, Iceman. We see some of these guys. They're all sitting here, just rolling some dice, doing some gambling, having a little bit of fun. The party seems to be going relatively well up to this point. Now inside, we have a little bit of a standoff going on here, because Captain America and Doctor Doom are standing toe to toe. And Emma Frost, she sees this from across the room, and she comes over to kind of get in between this before anything kicks off, before these two decide to rip each other's freaking head off. And really, she just breaks the tension up. Now, Doom, this whole time, he's been super cynical about this entire situation. And Emma Frost tries to tell him that there's no reason that his country can't enjoy the same friendship and benefits that America does. Because at the end of the day, Krakoa, they're not really asking for anything in return. And regardless if he likes it or not, mutants are here, and they aren't planning on going anywhere. So it's really in everybody's best interest to try to work together. You know, Doctor Doom acts as if they've announced that they have conquered Earth. Now, it doesn't help her case that a member from the Shi'ar Empire comes up and congratulates her on conquering Earth. It's like it's too much. And even Doctor Doom, he can't help himself. He just busts out laughing. And Emma Frost, she corrects the ambassador, lets him know, you know, that's not what's going on here. Mutant kind is not announcing their conquest of anything. And of course, Doctor Doom, he's like, I just can't believe it. Like, you can't make this stuff up. And Doctor Doom just walks off. He walks off laughing his butt off. But this ambassador, he came to interrupt this conversation because he wanted to let her know that their empire has brought a gift for them. A gift that supposedly Emma Frost requested. Now, she has absolutely no idea what they're talking about. And so she gets X-Force, she gets Domino, and all of them to try to investigate, figure out exactly what he's talking about. And she also enlists the help of her brother Christian. But she also telepathically lets him know, like, I have no clue what they're talking about. I have no idea what they've brought here. Like, go check it out. Make sure it's not something that's going to be really bad. Now, as these festivities continue on, Emma Frost, she telepathically connects to everybody that's inside the Hellfire inner circle, quote unquote. She asked them all to meet them in the kitchen because she would like to propose a toast before the fireworks and the final wardrobe change. And so it takes us to the kitchen, and they're all sitting here in a circle, and Emma Frost begins her toast. And she just lets them all know, this night wouldn't be possible without all of your guys' hard work. All the sacrifice that you guys have put into this to make this possible. And Emma Frost's hope is that after tonight, there will be no need for a black market when it comes to Krakowan medicine. Because tonight, she is truly hoping that they are able to bring the entire world together. Now, this is when we're taken to later that evening, a little bit after midnight. Up to this point, we really don't understand what's going on, but everybody seems to be leaving the gala event. And what they're doing is skipping over whatever the big reveal is. They're not letting us know, definitely not in this first issue. But people are walking out of this gala in complete disbelief, saying, things like if they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they wouldn't have believed it. Other individuals saying, they believe what she's doing is a great thing. Even Doctor Strange, at this point, he's just thinking to himself and telling the others, he needs a moment to gather his thoughts, to take everything in that he just saw. And Cyclops, he asked Captain America what his thoughts are on all of this. And Captain America, he lets him know that they did end up solving one big problem, but he's worried that they might have created an even bigger mess if that is the case. And as he goes to walk off, he lets Scott know, I just hope you know what you're doing. We pick up with Kid Omega. We pick up with X-Force. They're kind of running security for all of the Hellfire Gala. And we're picking up in the early hours of the party. In the last issue, we saw it all play out from beginning to end with them skipping some really important aspects of the story. But this issue picks us up with Kid Omega telepathically kind of doing a scan on everybody as they enter through the gate. And as he's sitting here checking everybody, this is when he has the arrival of Iron Man. Comes flying in out of nowhere, definitely not using one of the gates, doesn't have one of the flowers that identifies him and allows him entrance into this place. Kind of like their little passport that they're requiring everybody to wear. And my Iron Man tells him straight up, like, I'm not wearing that thing. I know exactly what it does, and there's no way in hell you're gonna get me to wear it. And this is where we see Kid Omega and Iron Man kind of really button heads here. Iron Man comes in here, not using the gate, not wearing one of the flowers. Kid Omega wants to do a psychic pat down of him. Iron Man wearing some dampening glasses that block out Kid Omega's telepathic abilities. And Iron Man straight up tells him, like, there's no way in hell I am letting you into my mind. There is so much intel in here, there's no way I'm letting you tamper with anything inside of it. And Sage gets in communication with him, gets in communication with Kid Omega, and tells him to stop wasting his time. That the whole time he's been sitting here butting heads with Iron Man, they could be doing more important things. And we see Sage, we see Beast in the operations room, running everything from up here. Everything so far seems to be looking good. Right now we have Wolverine checking out what the Shi'ar Empire had gifted the mutant kind in Emma Frost. In the last issue we saw them saw them come up to her and tell them that they had something aboard their ship that she needed to come get. Now, she had no clue what this was or what they were even talking about, but come to find out, it seems to be that they are a crap ton of logic diamonds. And so they have Christian, Emma Frost's brother, go ahead and deliver it. Deliver it up to the cradles of Krakoa. And Wolverine is going to continue to patrol the shoreline, more or less. That seems to be the most vulnerable spot on the entire island. So they're going to have Wolverine sit here and stand guard. Now, this is where we pick up with Domino. And Domino gets in connection with Sage and lets her know that she has a bunch of ambassadors from Terra Verde sitting here, and she questioned them, but they really are acting very strange. They're acting very weird. But Beast gets on the comms and lets her know that she doesn't need to worry about them, that he is going to handle that situation. And he tells them that they're standing by, they're waiting instructions, almost like he's controlling them. Or at least he tells Sage that. He doesn't tell Domino that. He tells Domino more or less like, you're a field agent, just stay in your lane. Do what I tell you and don't worry about them. And Domino, she starts to go off. She goes on a whole little rant just telling Beast off more or less. But Sage had cut off the communication, so there wasn't any kind of tension between them. But Domino says, you know, forget about him. I don't even want to talk about Beast. I want to talk about you, because Sage has been so focused on making sure that everybody's good, everybody is doing what they're supposed to do. You know, she can't even come down to the gala event. And so Domino asks, you know, how are you doing? And really, she's just doing the best she can. She's making the best of a situation that she doesn't necessarily want to be in. You know, she's always stuck behind the chair, behind the screens, and she's missing out on the entire event. And while Domino, you know, she tries to comfort her by saying she isn't missing much, this is where we see the gala event in just prime kicking off. Everybody's mingling, everybody is talking, and it seems to be like an extremely successful event up to this point. But this is when we're taken to a little bit later on in the evening, around 8:30 p.m. And Beast has made his way down to the ballroom floor. And he's introducing a bunch of different ambassadors to the ambassadors of Terra Verde. And as he's making all of these connections with different people from around the world, Charles Xavier telepathically asks him what he's up to. And his response to Charles is, you know, you explicitly told me it was better if you didn't know what I was doing. And up to this point, I haven't let you down yet. So I'm asking for the benefit of the doubt in this certain situation. And while this conversation was going on, Emma Frost, she's keeping tabs on this. She's paying attention to everything that's going on here. You know, when Black Cat, Sage, and Jean combined their powers, they wrested control of Floric that had taken over the population. Plant life, essentially, that had taken over the population. And because of that, Terra Verde is now, it's currently flourishing. You know, there's no crime, there's no poverty, there's no hunger. And what we're seeing is the ambassadors of Terra Verde seemingly spreading this plant to other ambassadors across the globe. It is all unknowing to them, but it's all part of Beast's plan. You know, this is kind of Beast's spy network of fungus. It's a way for him to get ears everywhere in the world, to be able to listen to every single conversation. Imagine if Beast had the ability to hear everything going on in Avengers Mountain or in the United Nations meetings behind closed doors. Now, Beast thinks that this is going to be some kind of security to bring some kind of peace to the world. But really, more and more, it's seeming more like it's a dictatorship and a reach for control, a way to force people to be good, but essentially taking away their free will. Picking up an hour later, we see Wolverine on the shoreline, and he's sitting here looking out into the water, and he knows that something is coming. He can smell it as it approaches, and slowly something is making an appearance just underneath the water. And so he gets in contact with Sage and lets her know that they're probably going to need a little bit of backup to send Domino over on her way. And we see his claws come out, and from the water, it's none other than Deadpool himself. Because Deadpool had heard that they're throwing a party, and they must have lost his invitation in the mail. But Wolverine tells him, like, dude, you're not invited to this event. Like, we can't have somebody like you coming and just wrecking this entire thing up for us. And he argues that he's a mutant. He may not actually be a mutant, but he's an honorary mutant. And so he believes that he deserves to be at this party and just, drink the night away. And Wolverine tries to tell him it's not that kind of party, but Deadpool just isn't hearing it. And so we see these two literally just beating the crap out of each other. And Wolverine has not been in communication with Sage up to this point. So Sage is telling Domino that she needs to hightail it over to the shoreline as fast as she possibly can get over there. And as Sage is doing all of this, from behind, this is when we see Emma Frost appear. Emma Frost coming up and just asking if everything's okay. And on the shoreline, we have Deadpool and Wolverine fighting one another. Deadpool pulling out his pistol and straight shooting Wolverine in the face. Being able to make his escape, he goes running off. Unknowingly, he is going to be running right into Domino because Domino had jumped off this roof and comes flying down and crushes him underneath her weight. And Domino tells him, like, if anybody knows this, you should know this. You don't F with X-Force. And she roasts him. She barbecues him. We see Deadpool go up in flames. Now, this is when we're taken to Emma Frost and Sage. And their conversation, it starts off with Emma Frost giving Sage a toast, giving her a glass of wine, and thanking her for everything she's done. You know, she's up here kind of away from everybody else and everything else that's going on. And so Emma Frost wanted to come up here and say thank you. And as she gives her cheers, this is when Emma Frost lets her know that she knows about their colonial control over Terra Verde. And she informs Sage, you should know better than this because what you guys are doing, it jeopardizes all of mutant kind. Because if anybody were to learn about what they've done, this would completely end all of mutants. Everybody would come after them. And so Emma Frost tells Sage to have them escorted off of the island. Have this done before there's any kind of incident. And to decommission the fungal spy network that they have been setting up. Now, simultaneously, as she's telling Sage to do all of this, this is when something goes wrong. Because the ambassadors, they start to feel real dizzy, kind of start to feel weird. And that's because someone has hacked into the coding. Somehow, some way, Sage doesn't even know. She says this should be impossible, but somehow someone's done it. And we see the ambassador splash himself with water, only to quickly turn into like a giant tree-like monster. We're introduced to the one and only Mr. Sinister. And I gotta say, his outfit is absolutely killing it. And Mr. Sinister is not modest about it whatsoever. He knows he looks good. And as he sits here and stands before the group of Hellions that's not allowed to come, because not all the Hellions were invited. Sinister was invited, Psylocke was invited, and Havoc was invited. But those are the only individuals that got an invitation. Because at the end of the day, they don't want the Hellions there. A lot of these guys are misfits at the end of the day. That's the reason they're with the Hellions to begin with. And Sinister, he's not nice about it at all. He's like, if you would be less you might have gotten an invitation. But, seeing that this is just becoming even more sad as it continues on, he yells for Psylocke, he yells for Havoc, and we see them enter the room. Now, Havoc, his outfit for the night is just killing it. I absolutely love it. Looking like something out of Sword Art Online. But the rest of the Hellions, they immediately just start dogging on him. And with Psylocke entering the room, she tells them that they all need to be training. Because if they have to work tonight, they're going to make sure that they're also working. Now Psylocke, she comes in and oh my, she is killing it. Psylocke has hands down one of the best outfits of the night. And so we see the three head off, leaving Grey Crow in charge. They go off to do their training as these guys head over to the gala. Now this event started around 7 p.m. but we're taken to about 10:30 p.m. The Hellions that were left behind, we have Empath, we have Nanny, Orphan Maker, Grey Crow, and Wild Child. They're all sitting here doing their training, sparring with one another. But the whole time, Grey Crow, he's been drinking, and he has been drinking heavy. And finally, after he downs an entire bottle, he's just like, F this. and tells the rest of the Hellions, like, let's go. Because Krakow, he's not going to be left out. And so they're headed over to the Hellfire Gala. They're gonna bust down this party. And picking up at the Hellfire Gala around 10:45 p.m., we see that the Hellfire Gala is right in the middle of it raging. Everybody is mingling, everybody is talking. We're seeing Betsy, we're seeing Psylocke, them having their little conversation. You know, they've kind of not necessarily reconciled things up to this point, but they're in a better standing than they were before. And Havoc, he's sitting here having a conversation with Professor X, trying to get Maddie back. But in the midst of this conversation, Professor X interrupts him and lets him know that his friends just arrived. Now, at first he's like, no, like there's no way, like they weren't invited. There's no way they could be. And then he looks over only to see them straight up breaking this party up, just going wedding crashers on it. And as they walk into the room, Krakow, he tries to say what's up to Havoc, and Havoc, he puts his face down and covers his face and kind of walks away really quickly. Now, Mr. Sinister, he's working the room right now. He's talking to Black Panther, he's talking to Thor, and he's just doing his regular cocky, egotistical ways, comparing himself to gods, acting like he's just all that in a bag of potato chips. But in the midst of this conversation, this is where we see Nanny arrive. And Nanny tells Sinister, don't be modest. Like, yeah, you're all of that, but you're also an abductor. You're also an abuser, and you're a murderer of children. Now, Mr. Sinister, he tries to play this off, but obviously nobody wants to talk to him after hearing that. And everybody goes in their opposite directions. And Sinister, looking down to Nanny, asks if you're just gonna be continuing to do this all night long. And Nanny's just like, yeah, I'm gonna be right here the entire night. Now, right now, Psylocke is making her way over to the bar. She's sitting here ordering a drink. And this is when Krakow approaches her from her side. And they're sitting here having a conversation, but it quickly gets broken up because Kid Omega, he comes over and lets them know that they're not welcome here, that they don't have an invitation, and they're not going to be able to stay. But Psylocke says, you know, this is my +1. Everyone in the Hellions are my +1, and so they're going to stay. And Kid Omega, you know, he's like, that's not how this works, man. Like, you can't have all these people as your +1. But Psylocke tells them, you know, you can let them be my +1, or I can tell Phoebe what you really think about her dress. And real quick, Quentin's just like, like, okay, like, I'm gonna leave you guys alone. Now, picking up with Wild Child, Empath, and Orphan Maker, they're all sitting here out on the dance floor, and this is when Wild Child runs into Aurora. And this moment is so extremely awkward for both of them. You know, Aurora definitely wasn't meaning or expecting to run into him here, and so she's flustered. She doesn't know what to do. She ends up running off in the opposite direction, leaving Wild Child even in more rage state than he always is in. Now, right now, there's tons of conversation going on, and Havoc has been trying to have conversations with everybody on the Quiet Council. Currently, he's trying to have a conversation with Magneto. Now, Magneto, he came out big for this occasion. He is looking like a straight pimp out here. He has just got the fanciest attire, looking like a general, but a general who's going to the most BA ball of all time. And in the midst of their conversation, this is when Lorna comes to kind of interrupt everything that's going on. And Lorna drags him away from this conversation before he gets too deep and puts his foot in his mouth. Because no matter what he's doing up to this point, nobody's really helping him be able to resurrect Maddie. Now, this is where the night really starts to pick up a little bit more. Back at the bar where Krakow and Psylocke are having a conversation, Wild Child makes his way over there and is just in self-loathing about how he's never going to have a pack and he's never going to mate, like the same issues he's been having consecutively for quite some time now. But now he just wants to drink. He just wants to get hammered drunk. And Mr. Sinister is trying to have conversations. He's really trying to build up some kind of networking, but it's not lasting long because Nanny is in the background and Nanny is chugging drinks. Nanny is getting drunk. And Nanny, pouring these drinks back, yells for Sinister, asks where he ran off to. Nanny is just pouring one drink after another, not stopping for even a second. Krakow is trying to calm Wild Child down, letting him know, like, why don't you go try at it again? Go try to talk to Aurora. Maybe she was just thrown off. She wasn't expecting to see you. Like, go try it again. Give it another good effort. And then you have Empath with Orphan Maker, using his powers on Orphan Maker, and now Orphan Maker's like super enjoying his time. Use his power to make him a little bit happier and a little bit less afraid of the situation. And so we see Orphan Maker really letting loose. Like Orphan Maker were actually drunk. And Havoc and Lorna, they're trying to have a serious conversation, but that's when Orphan Maker comes running over, just laughing and giggling, kind of poking fun at Havoc, like just being obnoxious to the max. Goes running off, talking about how he loves bananas. Things seem to be going sideways really quick here. And then we have Wildchild. Now Wildchild, he's going up to talk to Aurora, only to see Aurora go up and kiss Dakin. And Wildchild, we see an anger in his eyes. And these two are standing toe to toe, Greycrow realizing the situation that's about to happen here. And he goes to intercept before Wildchild just loses it. Greycrow tackling Wildchild because Wildchild is ready to rip out dude's throat. And as this is going on, we see Orphan Maker out of left field come jumping in, screaming, "I love bananas." And then over here off to the side, we have Nanny say, "I guess it's going down." Nanny grabs a bottle and breaks it and just says, "Judgment Day, mother effer," and charges straight at Sinister. And so right now, all hell is breaking out. And we have Empath sitting here talking to Cat Eye and Roulette, joking about how the last time he saw them, he was trying to get them to kill each other. And they definitely didn't forget this, and they start jumping him. And this is exactly why the Hellions were not invited to this event. And so Magneto, seeing all of this, he's done with it. He lifts them up using his powers and tells Magic to open up a portal. And so all the fun for the night, at least for the Hellions, it's come to a close. And we see them making their way through the Krakowan portal with Psylocke by their side. And as they're finally starting to wind down and trying to wind Nanny down, because right now Nanny still wants to kill Sinister, a kid comes out of the woods and tells them that they're going to miss the fireworks. But Greycrow, he says, looking up to the sky, that he doesn't see any fireworks. But this is when Psylocke kind of pieces it together, and she uses her powers on all of the Hellions. And Greycrow's response is, "You've gotta be kidding me." And we see them all looking up to the sky, and Psylocke saying, "It's enough to make you feel like anything is possible." And in the background, we see some bright red eyes, because it's one of the Sinister clones saying that it's good to be home, but really right now unsure what the hell they're even staring at up in the sky. We're picking up with Team Excalibur preparing for the gala event. Everybody dressed in their best dress attire, but out of all of Team Excalibur, Rick is just really not happy to be here. This is not something that he wants to do. He doesn't want another celebratory event, especially with Apocalypse still not here. Someone who sacrificed a lot. And he feels like it's almost an insult to be celebrating without his presence. But with them being ready to head out, they all head to the gala. Arriving around 9:30, they're showing up fashionably late, but definitely making an entrance, because as Captain Britain makes her entrance, everybody stares at her, everybody acknowledges her, because she is absolutely killing it. And while they're making their entrance, this is when Richter is grabbed by somebody. Grabbed by none other than Shatterstar. Now this completely throws Richter off. He wasn't expecting this, and he's already been in a bad mood up to this point. And so while this may have seemed like a nice gesture, he completely blows Star off. And so for Richter, this event has already started going poorly. He didn't want to be here in the first place, and it's already off to a bad start. But picking up about an hour later into the event, the new X-Men team has been announced, Rogue being on that team. And so right now everybody is celebrating. Gambit, not necessarily sour that he didn't get on the team, but he kind of was hoping that he also got on the team. And so for Team Excalibur, this is great news. It's it's also a little saddening because they're not going to be working with her on a regular daily basis. She's going to be moving out of the lighthouse, you know, all that good stuff. And so while everybody is celebrating this going on, Captain Britain heads over and tries to have a discussion with Richter. You know, because Richter, he already didn't want to be here, and now his ex shows up, and it makes the situation just that much worse for him. So right now, he's just in a really rough place. And while Captain Britain is really trying to give him some kind of comfort, trying to tell him that he needs to just set all of that aside, at least for tonight, to try to relax, to try to enjoy himself on his night off. And in the midst of her conversation with him, this is when she is interrupted by Pete Wisdom. And he excuses himself and lets her know that he wants to have a dance. Grabbing her hand, leading her to the dance floor, even though she didn't necessarily say that she wanted to dance, but Pete Wisdom, he has some important information that she's going to want to know. Now Pete, he tells her that it's really awesome to see her again, and he's glad that she is back. But there have been a lot of things transpiring in Britain that she desperately needs to know about. And he tells her to read his mind, that from this point forward they need to have communications on the telepathic level. And he lets Captain Britain know that Rogue's little trick to throw the coven off of Captain Britain's trace while she was missing, it worked, at least temporarily. They were happy to cast Captain Britain as a pretender, one who took the title and took off, leaving all of Britain undefended. And they made sure to let everybody know that she is not English, but she is Krakowan. And that's when Captain Britain vanished. And so as it stands, trust in Captain Britain, it's at an all-time low. And he reminds her to keep talking telepathically because tonight they are here. They were invited, and they insisted that Pete Wisdom came along with them. And they got invited because all of their fear-mongering while Captain Britain was gone, it got him the title of Protector of the Realm. And Ruben had become the British ambassador. Now this is very worrisome because with this man now being the ambassador for the UN, the UK's treaty with Krakoa now stands to be at risk. And that's what will take us to 11 p.m. with Captain Britain barging into a room, interrupting a meeting about to begin. A meeting between the ambassador and Charles Xavier. Now right now Betsy, she is livid. And with her come storming in this room, she's calling the ambassador a coward. And he tries to play the card that Betsy abandoned them, and that they have no other choice to do what they did. But really, this is just how they wanted it to play out. They wanted to remove any kind of mutant as the protector of Britain. And so the ambassador goes on to tell Charles Xavier that they want to have a dissolution of the agreement between Krakoa and the United Kingdom. And he continues to let him know that all the paperwork will be faxed over to him in the morning. But as it stands, starting immediately, Britain rejects Krakoa's deal and says that the citizens are welcome on their land as foreign nationals, but the gates are no longer welcome. And he also goes on to tell them that they are no longer interested in extradition, that if any witch breed are to do any crimes on their soil, they will be tried in their courts, because he claims that they can punish them with their own magic. And this confuses Captain Britain, because as far as she knows, that they've been cut off. They've been cut off from Morgan Le Fay. Now the ambassador, he goes on to tell her that the land you have is not yours. That their true king is Arthur. He is the true defender and protector. But he goes on to tell her that the lighthouse, perhaps on their land, they're gonna now try to get back, because they're not gonna stand for her having control of it any longer. And as the ambassador turns and walks away, leaving this place, at the door listening in is Richter. And he is freaking livid. Because, you know, they're taunting them with land at this point. And Richter, he's just like, do you know who I am? Like, are you kidding me right now? But Pete Wisdom, he holds him back. Tells him that this is neither the time nor the place to be able to handle this. And as Pete Wisdom heads off with the ambassador, he tells Rick that he wants to get a drink with him later on. And at this point, Rick, he's just done. There is absolutely no reason that he wants to be at this gala event anymore, and he takes off. Which will take us to a little bit later on in the evening with Captain Avalon. And he's sitting here having a discussion with his wife. thinking about maybe drinking this evening, but she turns down the drink and says instead she's actually hungry. And while they're having their conversation, out of nowhere, this is where we see Nightcrawler poof in. And Nightcrawler, he's been drinking a little bit. He's having a little bit of fun and didn't realize that he scared her. Absolutely terrified Braddock. But this is where we see Captain Avalon make his approach, and he overhears them having a conversation because Nightcrawler is congratulating her, but she seems to be very vague on what he is talking about. Now, from what I can tell, it seems like she is pregnant and Captain Avalon is about to have another child. But with that, it will take us to the Coven meeting house in London, where the Ambassador and the rest of the Coven are about to do a magical ritual. And the Ambassador gives a speech, and they say that they have always had faith in their magic, in their ability to get things done. And they have prayed and prayed and prayed, and it has done nothing. So today, they are going to take the necessary steps to ensure they have their defense, that they have their magic back. Tonight, they will break Morgan's chains, and they will free her. And they have to do this by spilling mutant blood. And that's when they grab Pete Wisdom, all of the disciples grabbing a hold of him and dragging him over to the altar. Now Pete, he is doing his best to try to fight them off, but they are just not having it. And there's too many of them. And ripping his shirt open, he curses them as they take a dagger and they plunge it into his chest. And with the death of this mutant, they hail to Morgan Le Fay, the Witch Queen of Avalon, cursed woman of Camelot. They release her from her prison. They break all of her chains. Now back on Krakoa, we have Richter kind of just walking along the shoreline. And as he's walking along the shoreline, he calls to the Guardians. He hails the druids of this land. And he lets them know that he is ready. That he's calling them in because he's never asked of anything of them before. But tonight, he feels like they need to take something away from those who don't deserve it. And we see the earth breaking beneath his feet. A giant green glow coming from it, and from it come the druids, and he holds the staff of the Druid King. And so with him and all of the druids by his side, they smash and crack the earth. And as Richter is down there destroying the earth, creating something new, this is where we see Morgan making her way into one of the gates. Making her way into the gate that leads to the lighthouse. And we see her kill the guards that are standing by and enter through the portal. As she enters through the portal, there is a giant green glow coming from the top of the lighthouse. Richter at the bottom now created a new coastline, created a new island. And as Richter looks up to the lighthouse and sees this bright green glow, something else grabs his attention. That's something being Shatterstar. And he doesn't necessarily apologize to Rick, but he brings some beers and he's like, hey, let's have a drink. Let's sit down and let me offer you a drink. Something I should have done back there. Now, Richter, kind of warming up to him a little bit, tells him that he wants to show him the new beach that he just created. And so we see them sit down and finally just talk to each other. There's really two really important issues that go on in this comic. And outside of that, it's not hugely eventful. Though we do see some very familiar faces in here, they still continue to tease us with the big event that happens. But this issue picks us up at the reception around 8 p.m. and we pick up with Namor. And of course we expected to see Namor here. He's literally king of all the seas, of 70% of the entire planet. And so with all the world's powers being invited, his name definitely made the list. And as he sits here on the balcony having a drink, this is when Xavier and Magneto approach him. And upon coming up to him, they do their pleasantries. They pay the respect to who he is. Because at the end of the day, Namor, he is a very cocky individual. And if you don't refer to him as the royalty, as he sees himself as he truly is, you're not going to get his attention. And so Namor, he starts the conversation up. Starts it by asking how the empire building is going. And Charles starts it off by saying that it's going really well. And that they're making a lot of alignments and they're partnering up with a lot of individuals. And he lets them know, to all the end of this, why don't we talk about an inevitable partnership? a partnership we know that will come eventually. Let's start discussing that. And Magneto, he adds to this by telling him that if it's a question of influence, they could offer him a seat on the Quiet Council. Now, Namor being Namor, he tells him, an offer? He could walk into the Quiet Council and people would beg to give up the seat, even if one were not available. Because at the end of the day, like he says, he's a real king. And he tells them to be sure not to forget that. And he continues on and tells Charles, at the end of the day, he dreams of the entire world under his thumb. Him sitting upon the throne with all of humanity, mutant kind, and everybody else under his control, under his reign. And so he tells them, I'm not going to be on some council where people try to see me as their peers. Because at the end of the day, he has domain over 70% of the planet. And in his eyes, they have what? They have a tiny little island. And he tells them both, get back to me when you have something better to offer me. And with that, he takes off. Now, I think this was an absolutely wonderful exchange. And it really does put Charles and Magneto both into their place. Because for a long time, they've been hyping themselves up. They've been thinking themselves to be all that. But at the end of the day, when you're talking to someone like Namor, he sees you as peasants. And there is no way that you could ever be on his playing field. At least not anytime soon. Now, this is what's going to take us to a little bit later on in the evening. Taking us to the election. Now, this is big. This is something that Cyclops and Jean Grey have been working on for quite some time because they want to start up the X-Men again. They want to get mutants out there doing what they've been doing, getting them back to their roots. And so Cyclops and Jean Grey, they get everybody's attention. And he lets everybody know that it's that time in the evening to let everybody know and introduce them to the new X-Men. But before they can do that, they have to select them. Now, this is where Jean Grey plays her part, and using her powers, she connects to every single mutant on the planet. She asks them to open up their minds, and we see her connect to everybody. Now, Thor and Franklin, they're kind of freaking out a little bit. They don't really understand 100% on what's going on. But Doctor Strange, he's kind of tapped into this. He's just listening, and he's telling them that it's nothing to really worry about, because it's a rather elegant telepathic bond. Every mutant who wishes is telling the other why they want to be X-Men. And as they do, other mutants are getting behind the ones they believe in. And so all the mutants that want to be X-Men, they put their name in. Mutants all over the planet decide exactly who they want to be representing them. And that's when Jean Grey lets us know that it's done. That the X-Men team has now been selected, and that team, it begins with none other, the one, the only, the amazing Rogue. To be followed by Sunfire, Wolverine, Synch, and Polaris. And with that, Jean Grey gives and presents to the world the new team, the new X-Men. And for the most part, that's really the most riveting things about this issue. Now, it does take us to an hour later at the Exodus. But all of this is going to bring us to the fireworks. And Emma Frost kind of gives us her closing remarks for the night. And she tells everybody that the end is an interesting thing. Because sometimes it's just a matter of perspective. What seems to be an ending, it might very well be the beginning for someone else. Or more appropriately, what seems to be the end of an occasion, calling it, quote unquote, a gala, it might be perceived as a proceeding to something new entirely. Kind of like an expansion. And Emma Frost, she lets everybody know that she is going to connect everybody's minds. Every single person, human and mutant alike. Because she wants to offer a very unique view of the show. And she tells everybody that you're more than willing to refuse this if you would like. But she tells them that this is not something that you want to miss. Because this is going to be one of those where were you at moments. And so with that, we see bolts of energy go flying from Emma Frost in all directions, connecting with every single person. And she tells everybody to take a deep breath. Alright guys, so as we dive into the planet-size X-Men, this is the big event that we've all been waiting for. The announcement from the Hellfire Gala. What they wanted to show the entire world. Now for those keeping up with the comic, And after reading the title of this issue, many assume what's going to happen here. But what we see is Magneto trying to devise a plan. A very bold plan, one that may not necessarily work out for them, because what he wants to do is reboot Mars to make it a new and flourishing planet again. And the first steps in doing this is getting iron, a crap ton of iron. Now this is something relatively simple for Magneto to do. And with this iron, you're going to use it to create an atmosphere. Using mutants like Hope and Vulcan, these two combined can help create a planet core. Along with this iron, if they keep this in rotation, this is what's going to create the atmosphere. And so Magneto, he's going to have to be able to stir it. He's going to have to stir the planet core for a long time, and he's gonna have to do it with an immense amount of power. And what Magneto is doing is answering the question, can a circuit of mutants bring back to life a dead planet? And this is where we see Iceman talking to everybody back on Earth, because right now he is on Mars. The gala event is going on. Emma Frost is showing the entire world right now what they're doing. And they are showing the world the moments when they restart this planet, when they bring Mars back to life. And Iceman giving a toast to everybody, telling them that he hopes they enjoy the show. And we see a burst of power come out of him. And we see ice, we see snow start to cover a good majority of Mars. But this is where we take a few steps back. A few days prior to the gala event, Magneto really setting everything up so that it all can fall into place on the gala event. Because there's been a persistent problem here on Earth. Ever since the Ten of Swords event, ever since the tournament, Arakko now exists as a sister island. And what we've seen is a whole lot of people from Arakko make their way to the Pacific. In the Pacific, they've been causing tons and tons of trouble. And so Magneto is here today talking to Iska the Unbeaten, trying to find out what kind of solution they can have for this problem. Because while Iska doesn't concern herself with humans or any issues that they're taking up with the mutants being there, this is a problem for Magneto. And if it's a problem for Magneto, it's a problem for Iska. But Magneto, he came here today to propose something new. Instead of waging wars like they have done for decades and centuries, why not build something new together? And that's what will take us to Krakowan 3 days ago. And right now he's meeting up with Hellfire, because right now Emma Frost is having huge trouble trying to get medicine to the rest of the world. Their need for medicine, the world's need for medicine, as they predicted, is extremely high, and they're not able to meet these. But with their loss of land in the Savage Land, they have less land to be able to farm. And so what we're seeing is a ton of events that are happening to mutant kind. Very logical, very agriculture, very political issues, but Magneto lets them know that he just needs a couple of days. If he has a couple of days, then all will become clear. He can solve multiple problems with what's about to happen. And that's when we pick up 2 days before the gala event. And we have Captain America meeting up with Cyclops, because Captain America right now, he's worried. With the new island appearing and millions of more mutants now being on Earth, this causes a huge concern to the rest of the world. And with all of the action going on in the South Pacific, with the mutants coming on, the world has essentially gone into DEFCON 1. But what Captain America, what he came here to ask today, is all of this going to be permanent? Is this something that the world is going to have to get used to? And if so, what avenues can they take to make this transition easier? But Cyclops, being very vague, tells him to just ask him back. In a couple days, ask him this question again. And Cyclops tells him to make sure that he attends the gala event. And that's what will bring us to Above Earth the morning of. And we have our team making their way up to the planet, making their way up to Mars. Because right now, while yes, it may have a core and all of these other things, it still needs a lot more of a kickstart to actually become a flourishing planet. And so Magneto has hand-selected a team of mutants with unique abilities to be able to go up there and make this planet come back to life. And they're doing this while the entire world watches them. So if they fail, mutant kind will be laughed at. They'll be a laughing stock. And so that makes Quentin question, you know, maybe we could use a powerhouse. Maybe we need a little bit more power. You know, he's going to take this opportunity to definitely flex on everybody, but at the same time, it's risky, and why not have the extra power just in case? And they suggest Franklin Richards. But of course, you know, Magneto, being the kind of purist he is, he sees Franklin as no brother to them, as a pretender to mutant kind. But he has made additional calls. He has made additional calls to Arakko. He has made other calls to Otherworld, to Monarch, and as well as partnering up with Iska, and she produces a couple of really unique mutants that are gonna help. They're gonna help really make Mars a new world. And those individuals are Lactua the Knower, Suburner of Depths, and Zelo, the first defender of the land. With their 3 unique powers together, and the individuals he has on his team, this is all the power he is going to need to be able to resurrect this planet. And that's what will take us to Mars on present day. And we have Hope, we have Jamie, and we have our new mutant friend. Now, Suburner, he has a unique ability. His body contains an entire ocean's ecosystem. And so he's here to donate some blood. And Hope, she is here to amplify it. And this essentially gives life to the ocean. We see a body of water and a flood comparable to the Great Flood with Noah. And while this is going on, we have Storm. She is doing her thing. Because on Earth, yeah, she can control the weather, but here the entire climate is at her control. And we see her nourish the land with wind. Wind that will help create this fantastic new place. And this is where we pick up with Xylo and Magneto. Now, Xylo, his unique ability is being able to make this land full of nutrients again. And so what the universe takes a millennia to make, mutant kind is being able to do this in a matter of days. In a matter of moments, Mars is starting to teem with life again. But these are just the easy parts. The hard part is what comes next. And this is when Magneto, he goes through a portal, he goes through a gateway and meets up with Lactuca. And what they're doing here is going to attempt to be inverting the Eternal Gate. And then they're going to be teleporting everything to Mars. Now, if they're off, even by the slightest bit, it could be absolutely disastrous. And that's exactly why Lactuca is here. Because his gift is to know where everything is, including when and where to land. And this is where we see Jean Grey activate her powers. And in an instant, everything is teleported. Everything is sucked in. And for the second time in weeks, Arakko has been uprooted, but now it is at its forever home. The external gate was aimed exactly on target, slingshotting the island and millions of mutants miles into space. And the hopes here is that these people can now stop fighting. After years and years and years of war and battle, they now no longer have to fight. They have an entire planet to themselves. And for the first time in Arakko history, they have a bloodless victory. Now, at the beginning of this day, Hela's Basin, it was nothing more than a crater. But with a little bit of terraforming, we see this crater become one of the great pillars that Mars will be. This is where we see a diplomatic ring created. A spot in hopes where all tribes can come together and resolve their differences without war. And diplomats will receive the full protection of their station. But outside of it, the laws and rules of Arakko exist. Now, with this world coming to life, Quentin has an idea. He's thinking about protection for this planet. And after talking to Jean Grey, she implants an idea into Monarch to help him kind of birth an idea, to help make it a reality. And this is where we see her and Quentin inside his mind, inside the mind of Jamie, kind of dropping this idea in there. And he sees it. He sees the idea that Quentin has, and it's creating another sword station. But this is when we see Jamie start to literally birth the station. Taking it too literal, we see Sword Station literally burst out of his stomach. And Jean grabbing it quickly and launching it into space, Magneto grabs it and throws it into orbit. And so now Sword Station 2 is in orbit and ready to defend Mars. But every great planet, it needs a hub, it needs a port. And this is where we see them use their powers and create Port Prometheus. And the mutants, they're dubbing this place kind of the capital to the galaxy. And as Storm and Magneto look up to the sky, as they sit here and look what they have accomplished, Mars, it begins to rain, and this has nothing to do with Storm or her abilities. The planet is doing this all on its own, because the planet has finally come alive again. It is finally a living, breathing thing. And this is where we see all of the mutants making their arrival on Mars, coming through one of the gateways, looking at this new world that's been created, being able to breathe oxygen, feel the rain upon their face. This is a brand new start for all of mutant kind. Not only that, but what we're seeing here is mutant kind really propelling all of humanity into the future. They just terraformed and made an entire planet livable again. Not only that, but almost instantaneously they were able to teleport millions of people across space and time. And so this is the new beginning. For millions of mutants, they get a fresh start, a chance to have a brand new world free of war, free of conflict, free of all of humanity. We're picking up in the security bloom. And right now, Sage is calling all of X-Force to arms. Because right now, they currently have a terrorist cell that has infiltrated the Hellfire Gala. Because the Terra Verdine ambassadors, they have gone rogue. Now, the Terra Verdine people, Beast has had under a kind of more or less mind control, like an organic-based virus that had affected the entire population. And what we saw is Beast pretty much take control of an entire population of people. Now, even though they have gone rogue, they don't seem to have really announced themselves yet. They're keeping quiet for the most part, and we see Old Man Herbert, we see a bunch of individuals, tons of guests attending this party, and Herbert makes his way to the bathroom. Now, going inside the bathroom, there's people laid out all around the floor, but he ignores everybody, and he goes to the sink, going ahead and refreshing himself. This is when he gets attacked by a person from Terra Verdine, and we see this plant being come up and start attacking everybody, only to be intercepted by Wolverine himself. Now, while Wolverine is in the bathroom handling this guy, we have Beast outside in the party, and right now he's doing a geo-tracker scan, the flower that everyone was given, trying to find the people, the ambassadors, before they can cause a scene, before it is known what has exactly happened here. But these trackers, they were either gotten rid of or they were crushed. Either way, they don't have tracking on them any longer. But this is when Beast spots Gabriela Gomez. Being one of these creatures, one of these Terra beings, if you will, we see her slowly transforming, and it looks like she's about to eat a guy, or kill him, maim him, something. Whatever she's about to do, it's not good. Now Beast, he moves to intercept this, but he has to do it with some stealth. He can't attack her out in the open. The whole goal here is to make sure that nobody knows this is happening. Not only that, but obviously nobody can die tonight. If somebody dies tonight, it's going to look extremely bad on all of the X-Men. It's going to look bad on all of Krakoa. And so Beast, sticking to the shadows with the best of his ability, he goes charging in on Gabriela and tackles her. Now, with Beast on top of Gabriela, right now she is furious. Because her and all of her people, they were essentially programmed by Beast. Programmed and used as allies to their cause. And Beast, he stole their entire country and their identity right out from under them. Now, the gentleman that Gabriela was trying to kill here, we see Kid Omega use his powers and make this guy completely forget everything that he just saw and left him with a very pleasant memory. Now, picking up back in the bathroom, we have Wolverine and one of the individuals from Terra Verde in here battling. And Wolverine is trying to understand what is going on, because last he knew, Terra Verde and Krakoa, they were at peace. But Wolverine is told that there was a coup, at least an attempt for a coup. Now, at this point, Wolverine, he is completely confused with this whole situation. But he tells it, you guys signed a treaty. I don't know what you're talking about. How did we have a coup? And he informs Wolverine further that their blood had been compromised, so much so to the point that they were forced to be allies. And unbeknownst to them, they don't know why, but just a few minutes ago, it stopped working. The influence no longer has power over it, and it now has free will. And after months of being shackled inside of its own body, it finally woke up in control. And so though it may be here as a political prisoner, it plans to leave here as a revolutionary. Now, out on the docks, we have Domino battling all of the ambassadors because right now they're trying to leave. They're trying to flee here so they can go back to their country, free their people, and have some kind of justice for what Beast has done to them. And Beast informs Domino that none of them are allowed to leave. She has to stop them because if word of this gets out, they're going to have an international disaster on their hands. And we see Domino holding her own against these guys, but one of them eventually gets a knife to her throat. But this is where we see the one and only Deadpool make his arrival. After getting beat up by Wolverine and Domino, he's come back to help save the day. And as Domino is sitting here as a prisoner, the ambassador is trying to let her know that the only thing they ever wanted was a mutually beneficial agreement between them and Krakowan. And so it looks like most of X-Force has been kept in the dark about everything that Beast has been doing. But as they're sitting here having this discussion, this is where we see Deadpool get tripped up and accidentally shoots one of his rockets. But this is when we pick up with Beast and Sage. Beast now carrying Gabriela Gomez, the ambassador from Terra Verde, and he's letting Sage know that there isn't much time, that he can reverse the process so that they would never know. They would continue to be prisoners inside their own bodies. Now, Sage, she tells Beast no. Like, it's already too late for this. We can't continue on with what we've been doing. We've already gotten caught at this point. There's no point in making it any worse. And Beast accused Sage of being kind of like an inside man, freeing all of these people to make Beast look bad. And Sage, she slaps the crap out of Beast, extremely insulted by that. But she lets Beast know that he needs to get the heck out of here. She is going to handle this. She's going to fix this situation. But he is not going to be a part of this any longer. And so what Sage's plan is to put in place kind of like a diplomatic motion. All members of X-Force were asked to stand down. And the ambassadors from Terra Verde were promised some kind of armistice. But the ambassadors said that they would lay down their arms if the mutants relinquished complete control of their country and allowed their political independence, along with the following reparations, being $1 billion in US dollars for economic and emotional damage incurred. The X-Corps would promise to disregard all pharmaceutical and technological rights as it relates to all of their technology under their development. Their vote on recognizing Krakowan trade deal will pivot from a yes to a no, and in return, they will offer in good faith agreement not to speak to the public about this attempted coup. And that's what brings us to the after party. And right now, everybody is around the bar having a good old drink. And Wolverine, he's even sitting here saying, you know, everything that Beast did, that stuff wasn't right. Because he knows what it's like to not have control. To have somebody else at the helm. You know, tonight was supposed to change so many minds. Wolverine never thought his own mind would be changed this day. And so we see most of X-Force sitting here having a drink, enjoying the night, glad that it didn't get out of hand, nobody found out, nobody is the wiser. We have Deadpool being his regular self, trying vigorously to try to be a part of X-Force. Now this is when we pick up with Beast and Emma Frost, and this is an extremely important conversation, because Emma Frost, she wants some answers for everything that happened. And while Beast, he doesn't believe he needs to even explain himself to Emma, she tells him, you know, nonetheless, you're going to do it. And this is when Beast gives us a quote, saying that there is no God, but do not tell my servant that, for he may kill me in my sleep at night. And he says that Krakoa is more than a nation, it is a god, it is a deity. And though Emma Frost at first brushes this off as nothing but just ridiculous notions, Beast lets her know that the treaty requires people to serve them, and for that they are rewarded for their fealty. Krakoa is a god, and if they want people to actually believe in it, and to fear it like a god, they need to be omniscient. They need to be able to hear all of their prayers and all of their blasphemies. They need to spy. And at the end of the day, their goal is long-term survival. And while Emma Frost and the rest of the Quiet Council, they sit in the sunlight and they debate they debate policies and what the best course of action is. Beast is over here working in the shadows, doing the work that no one else wants to do, but everyone knows needs to be done. Because even Charles knew in the very beginning that the hard decisions, those would be made in the shadows. And she calls him a bastard, and he accepts that. He accepts the role of bastard, of whatever they want to call him, if that means mutant kind will survive, if that means Krakoa will continue to thrive. Because he is willing to do anything to save them from complete and total annihilation. But in the midst of this conversation, Sage chimes in and lets Beast know that there's some kind of issue right now. Because the Marauder, with Christian on board, it's gone dark and it is currently sitting off the coast of Madripoor. Because it was carrying a heavy load of logic diamonds. But it appears that somebody hijacked the boat, possibly even killing Christian and setting the entire boat ablaze. Guys, so as we dive into this issue, it's picking us up with Captain America. This is after the gala event, after the fireworks, after they saw Mars completely terraformed. And the entire world representatives, everybody is in just amazement right now. Can't believe what mutant kind just did. Captain America is still trying to gather his thoughts on exactly what happened. And he sits here and he stares up to the sky, staring at the red planet. And as Captain America is sitting here with his thoughts, we see the arrival of my favorite, Dr. Doom. And Doom is here to ask Captain America what his thoughts on all of this is. And for Cap, that is a big question to answer. Because as it stands, he's still a little shell-shocked about the whole situation. But he does share some thoughts with Doom. Because when he came out of the ice, that first week out of the ice, it was kind of a dark time for him. He had no friends, no family. He didn't understand the world around him. But him seeing a man on the moon, that gave him some kind of hope. And it hit him that after decades of being frozen, that they must have reached new heights. This is the hope that he had. Seeing all of Tony Stark's technology, he asked Tony about Mars. If there were any kind of rockets or bases, if there was any kind of civilization that had been created there yet. And Tony, kind of giving him a smile, but changed the subject on him. And now here they are. The day that he had asked about is finally upon them. And they are watching from the sidelines. But Cap isn't scared of this. This is just change. This is the future, and it's never something that he's been scared of. He believes in a better tomorrow. And though there will be challenges along the way, he really does hope that this is going to be the betterment for everybody. And with that, we see Doom open up a portal, and he tells Cap that one day he might actually need Doom's help, and he won't hesitate to help him. But he also won't make a whole gala event out of it. But that's what will take us to Sword Station number 1, aka the Peak. And we're taken to the diplomatic suite, because right now Brand is giving a speech to the Galactic Council, a council made up of nations from all over. And they have brought this council together to show them a multitude of things, starting one with the terraforming of Mars. And Brand also makes everybody aware of Sword Station number 2 that is now orbiting Mars, protecting the planet. And she asks the council if they have any kind of questions. And the council's response, honestly, is, why the hell should we even care? Like, you added one planet to your system. Congratulations. These are nations that are rulers of multiple worlds and planets. A lot of them are dealing with an economic crisis on a galactic scale. So a lot of them are insulted that they were even brought here, that they were interrupted from their duties to come see a planet terraformed. But they do acknowledge that this terraforming technique, if anybody else tried to terraform a planet, it would probably take around a year to do so, with current technology out there. And what the mutants have just displayed is being able to terraform an entire planet within a matter of minutes. And this is not any small feat. And the intergalactic empire of Wakanda chimes in and lets them know this kind of feels unimpressive in comparison to what the nation of Wakanda has accomplished. And to be completely frank, Krakoa only makes up a small fraction of Earth. Not only that, a lot of people know that this is going to make a lot of other nations on Earth really upset. And Nova Prime, he's a little bit upset about this. Richard Rider, he kind of wanted to be informed, but he was off saving billions of lives. And Brand turns this on him. Frenzy turns this on him, saying that he obviously has other things going on. He has other priorities that aren't Earth. And that Krakoa has Earth, has their system first and foremost when it comes to priorities. But Brand does acknowledge that these empires that they're having a meeting with, they are ginormous empires. And in comparison, Mars, Earth, our solar system is really just a backwater crap town, if you will. Because there's still a planet of factions, and while terraforming one of their backyard planets may be something exciting for them, they know that it's not something exciting for everybody. They know that they have to do more, and they have. They have with the mineral called Mysterium, a very unique meta mineral, the recipe being kept close to the chest on a need-to-know basis. But she does let them know that Earth's mutants are the only ones that can create this material. And WizKid starts to break down exactly what Mysterium is. Now, this stuff, it functions like a metal, but not just any metal, because its durability is extremely great. Now, Mysterium is not hard to form into place. You can shape it relatively easy, but once it's set and cooled below 200 degrees Kelvin, it has strength on par with secondary adamantium. It can conduct electricity with 100% efficiency, and unlike most metals, it barely conducts or retains any kind of heat, and it's radiation proof. You could have ships with the hulls a tenth of thickness in comparison to other ships, and still be able to fly it through a freaking sun. And so what WizKid is saying is this is what comes next. This is the next metal, and mutants are giving this stuff away. Every representative of every empire is going to end up walking away with 100 tons of Mysterium, and this should be some kind of economical miracle for most worlds. But Brand continues on and lets them know that they also have Mysterium reserves in various locations, which they're willing to donate to the Galactic Council, either to back the credit or to use as a basis for a new unit of currency, one that she says they can call Soul. Now, mutants, they have no intention of flooding the market with this stuff. Simply put, they have their own technologies and they don't even necessarily need this metal, or at least they don't need a lot of it. But Nova has to ask the question. When it comes to Abigail Brand, there is always some kind of price. So what is the price for all of this Mysterium? And Brand tells them that Krakoa made a similar deal with Earth when all of this started, gave them exactly what they needed, what they could not do alone. And what they ask for in return is acknowledgement. And what they want is a solidified government. One world, one government. Making Soul the true system of the galactic political stage. Letting it be known that so forth from this day forward, when you have business with Soul, it's not with Earth. It's with the central planet of the Soul system. It's with planet Arakko. And as she's giving this great speech to everybody, she is interrupted by Dr. Doom. And Dr. Doom, he asks the question, why should I care? Because she says Soul is now a true system, a political entity. But Doom, he really came to find out who would be the individual that would speak for Soul. He needs to know who rules these new planets. Who is the king of Mars? And out of a portal, this is where we see the magnificent, the beautiful, the regent of Mars. We see Storm. And Storm is the voice of Soul. Now, this is what takes us to a little bit later on in the evening. And we have Magneto sitting down after the celebration. It's around 3 a.m. at this point. And he's sitting down, enjoying having a drink by himself. But this is when he is interrupted by Scarlet Witch. because Magneto had sent her an invitation to the party, but she didn't attend. Even though Magneto really wished she had got to see everything that happened, she didn't feel like she should actually show her face around here, especially after Wandageddon and everything. She just feels out of place still. And Magneto, he tells her about the child that he lost, about Anya, how the humans had killed her, and how he always thinks back to those days. Thinks of his daughter, how she would be raised, the woman she may become. But being around Wanda, it reminded him so much of his daughter. And while they may not technically be blood, Magneto has always seen her as his kin, as his daughter. And even though they may not be family, he may not be her father, he feels that they will always be family. Alright guys, so as we're jumping into this issue, at the Hellfire Gala event, Nightcrawler got completely obliterated drunk. He just got so freaking hammered, and most of the night is a complete blur to him. He remembers little glimpses and images talking to certain individuals. For the most part though, he just went blackout drunk. And Nightcrawler waking up the next morning, realizing how much of a fool he made of himself. And we see him poof his way over to Dr. Nemesis. And completely hungover, he immediately takes his coffee and starts chugging it. And this is where we see the arrival of Legion coming in and letting him know that Dr. Nemesis wasn't the only one to see his shenanigans last night. Because right now, it's kind of the talk of the town. Everybody is talking about how just completely wasted Nightcrawler was. But Nightcrawler, he had a little bit of an excuse to be getting drunk. He didn't want to tell everybody that they're currently being hunted by Onslaught. But Legion tells him to leave Onslaught to him. The Nightcrawler, he needs to continue focusing on the laws, because people here, they need to feel safe. But it does seem like people are enjoying themselves, and this is where we arrive on Arakko, or previously known as Mars, because this is where Nightcrawler ended up at the end of the night. This is where most of the mutants ended up at the end of the night to celebrate the new terraforming. And so Nightcrawler, he begins to focus on the laws, and the first law is to make more mutants. And he has no clue where to start. And Dr. Nemesis tells him that the best logical starting point is to have a lab to be able to do this. Because with the proper lab, you could really do anything. But nothing substitutes good old-fashioned lovemaking to be able to create new mutants. And with that thought, we see Nightcrawler take off. But this is where we pick up with Legion. Now, Pixie has asked Legion for some help, because Loa and Mercury, they're in a relationship and they can't be intimate, because anything Loa touches, it kind of shreds. And so they need help being able to have some kind of intimacy. And being friends with Blindfolds, she knows that Legion can have some kind of intimacy inside of the head, using his powers to create a really unique experience. Now, this is where we pick up with Nightcrawler out and about, and he runs into Stacy X. And right now, she's giving out protection, condoms, and things of that nature, birth control, to keep people from getting pregnant. And of course, Nightcrawler, he wants to find out why. You know, the first law is to make more mutants, and more mutants can't be made if everybody is using protection and not creating babies. But Stacy tells him, like, dude, you just don't start. Like, I heard you were becoming less Catholic, not more Catholic. Last night was one of the biggest parties mutant kind has ever had. Of course I was handing out contraceptives. But this is when Stacy takes him to what they're calling the Bower. It's a place for people to kind of blow off steam. In the simplest terms, this place is a brothel. And people come here for a multitude of reasons. Some couples just sit here and talk. Others hold hands, others just lay in bed together. Others are here for some extracurricular activity. And Nightcrawler tells her in an extremely offensive manner, just saying, you know, you built a brothel in the Garden of Eden. and Stacy slaps the crap out of him. And he apologizes to her, but right now he's extremely frustrated. You know, how can he unite all of mutants using laws and they're told to multiply, but they're just giving away to their empty desires? And Stacy informs him that there is something he needs to see. Before he says anything else, she wants to show him something. Now, picking up with Legion, he decides to put these two into a kind of trance, where their minds will be able to connect on an entirely different level. And he describes it as like a million getting to know you dates all in a single moment, blurring together with no borders, no boundaries, sharing every single little detail about one another. Every hope, every dream, every pleasure, fantasy, and delight. Not only that, but every secret as well. And while they're sitting in this state, one of them starts yelling no. Unsure what is going on, Legion grabs Pixie and they jump into their minds. And as they jump inside the mind, Pixie realizes that they're sharing too much information. But this is what they asked for. Legion told them, you know, this is what's going to happen. Now, they wanted to just have a little bit of fun and have a little bit of intimacy. They didn't want to have to share every single little detail, but there is something not allowing them to stop. That something being Onslaught. And Legion kind of does an exorcism, blasting Onslaught out, because he did all of this to set them up, to figure out exactly where Onslaught had gone, using this as kind of a bait for a psychic monster. And now Legion is going to be able to track this beast all the way back to Krakowan. Now, on Krakowan, we have Nightcrawler and Stacy in what appears to be some kind of nursery. A nursery at this quote-unquote brothel. Now, some of these children had just been abandoned. Others are just dropped off. But all the people that come here, they also make sure they interact with these children. So these children aren't necessarily unloved. There's tons of people that come and just interact with them to make sure that they know that there's people around them. This is truly a real freaking community here. And right now they're averaging about one a week. Some are left outside, some get teleported in, others couples just drop off. And while, you know, Nightcrawler morally has so many issues with all of this, at the end of the day, the first law is being followed. Mutants are multiplying. And what more can you ask for? You can't ask exactly how it's done. You wanted more mutants, and this is exactly how you're getting them. You know, maybe someday there will be some kind of adoption process that the Quiet Council makes up, but until then, this is the best these kids have. This is the first law straight up in action. And this is where we see Lost. Now, Lost is kind of new to Krakowan, but she has found her place in this nursery, taking care of all of these children. Now, while Lost is taking care of all of these babies, we see the arrival of Fabian Cortez just getting his butt kicked. Just being his weirdo self, trying to get people to join the Alkalites. We see something switch in Lost. We see Onslaught start whispering in Lost's ear. And we see Lost completely go berserk and attack Fabian. And we see the two fighting and Fabian get on top of Lost and start choking her out. And then a portal opens up with Legion coming out, letting Onslaught know that he can see him. And we see Onslaught just with a flick of his wrist throw Legion and his team. And Onslaught makes a tactical retreat after Pixie releases her dust, her sleep dust to put people to sleep. And just like that, this fight is over. So whatever Onslaught is doing, he's being very tactful because he's covering his tracks. Legion, having no idea where he went this time, he decides to go have a drink at the bar. And as they're at the bar a little bit later, they're all sitting down, discussing everything that's happened and this first law. You know, Nightcrawler, with his Catholic ways, has had a lot of trouble adjusting to this new world of Krakowan. And the first law states that everybody needs to be multiplying, that you need to make more mutants. And the way that he pictured that isn't necessarily how it's happening. he wants to be able to unite everybody under these laws, and he's trying to kind of force things. And so he's having to stop and look back and just let this nation actually be a nation. People are going to do what they're going to do. Mutants are going to do what they're going to do. He can't stop them no matter how hard he tries. Alright gang, so as we dive into the last issue for the Hellfire Gala, we're picking up with X Factor. Now this story is picking us up a little bit prior to the gala. Everybody is getting ready. We see iBoy kind of riding his skateboard around, and it's just giving us like a quick glimpse at what everybody's got going on right now. But this is also a very subtle point out to iBoy, because iBoy, his powers have really been growing as a mutant. And Northstar has been keeping an eye on this. Professor Xavier also wanting updates on this. Northstar telling him pretty much to go F yourself. But we'll talk more about iBoy here in a little bit. And so we see all of X Factor. They get dressed and they head out to the car. Everybody dressed in their finest attire. I think of all the outfits that we've seen from the Hellfire Gala, I think iBoy's truly is the best one. It's just so very unique. Now, while all of X Factor is making their way to the vehicle to be able to head to the gala, this is where we see Prodigy kind of break off. And Prodigy tells them that he just forgot something back at home. But iBoy seems to be a little bit suspicious. Everybody else brushing it off like it's no big deal. Like, okay, we'll see you there. Hurry, make sure you're not ridiculously late to the gala event. But what Prodigy is actually doing is going to Club Pepper. And Prodigy doesn't even really know why he's here right now, but he's tracking his murder. A murder of a duplicate him. And when he arrives here, the bartenders, they automatically recognize him, thinking that he probably wouldn't return. Because the duplicate Prodigy, he came here and gave these guys a cell phone. Gave it to them for kind of a safekeeping. In case something were to ever happen to that duplicate, i.e. he gets murdered, the new Prodigy would be able to find this phone and continue on where the last one was going. Now, picking back up at the Hellfire Gala about 9:30 p.m. at night, this is when Shatterstar makes his appearance. Now, we saw this a little bit previously. Now, Shatterstar, he just got done kind of killing the Goddess of Death. Now, this is kind of suspicious because it should have taken him a lot longer than it actually did. But it turns out that you can't really kill a Goddess of Death. The power is just repurposed. And the goddess, her last words when she died, "To the victor go the spoils." And so we're not entirely sure exactly how this affected Shatterstar. We don't know to what extent, we don't know what kind of power may have been transferred into him. Right now, everything is up in the air. But this is what takes us to a Bel Air mansion. It is the home of Buck Thatcher, a very well-known producer of movies in Los Angeles. And right now, Prodigy is here because Prodigy, he checked everything that was on that phone. Everything his duplicate self had left him. And that information led him to this doorstep. Now, Buck Thatcher, he knows who this is. He knows Prodigy. He recognizes his face. Because this is the man who killed Prodigy. Who killed the duplicate Prodigy. And he knows all of this. And we see Prodigy smash this guy in the face. Now, back at the Hellfire Gala, there isn't a whole lot going on that we haven't seen in other lines already. For example, in Hellions, where we saw Wildchild try to attack Daken, but Daken and Psylocke, more or less, they're a couple, and it's been made public now because of this whole Wildchild incident. And as we see these two dance, as we see them get close and really start to share a kind of intimacy, this is when they get a phone call from Northstar. Now, back in Thatcher's apartment with Prodigy, he was currently standing over this man who killed the last him, and iBoy makes his entrance, telling Prodigy to relax, it's just him, but that he knew something was up. iBoy already knew that he was lying back at the boneyard, He saw Club Pepper, so he checked there first. The bartender's worried about where Prodigy may be because the guy, Buck Thatcher, he is extremely dangerous. But the bartenders, they have good reason to be worried because this man is a predator. This is the man that murdered him. Not just him, but dozens and dozens of individuals over the course of the last 2 decades. This man is a serial murderer, specifically targeting young, gay, black men. And Prodigy shows Eye-Boy his duplicate self, his past self, leaving a recording saying that his investigation led him to this man and that he left this recording just in case he ended up dead, just in case he ended up murdered, him leaving a breadcrumb trail for Prodigy to find. And Eye-Boy, after hearing all of this information, he asks Prodigy if he wants to see something cool. And we see Eye-Boy, he focuses. He concentrates with great focus. And we see from Eye-Boy a giant blast of energy. And it is absolutely devastating. This is what we're talking about when we talk about Eye-Boy's abilities really coming into their own. And while this is super awesome and super cool, it goes much deeper than that. And we're going to talk about that more here in a second. Now, Eye-Boy tells Prodigy that it's okay to cry. You know, this may not have happened to him, but it did happen to his duplicate him. And it's okay to be able to let this out. Now, this is where we see Dakin and Psylocke come into the room, kind of just finding out what's going on. Northstar giving the call to everybody to meet up here, and Eye-Boy fills them in on all the information, letting them know Prodigy's duplicate body is downstairs in the basement, that this man is a serial killer of young gay black men. And they could very easily kill this man, but they're gonna spare him. They're gonna let the humans take care of this guy. The cops are on their way. All the evidence they will ever need is right there. And though the death penalty may not exist in California, he is going to live the rest of his life behind bars in the worst environments possible. But that's what will take us to the Hellfire Gala at 4 a.m. And we have Prodigy and we have Eye-Boy making their way along, and we're finding out more about Eye-Boy. You know, everyone sees him as this goofy kid. He really plays this persona, and he does this intentionally. He does it so people will drop their guard around him, because his abilities have grown so much. He can tell everything about a person just by how they react, how they talk. Their body language tells him everything that he needs to know, and so much more. And I think that's a really awesome way to take a character like Eye-Boy and really show the true potential of his abilities. Now, as they're having this conversation, this is where we see Tommy, the son of Wanda, because Eye-Boy went out of his way and invited Tommy to make Prodigy happy, because Eye-Boy, seeing all of this, seeing everything, knew exactly that this is what the doctor more or less called for. And so with them, you know, extremely happy, hugging each other, having a good time, making their way to the after party, they see it appears to be somebody laying in the grass. Maybe somebody who partied a little too much. And as Tommy goes to see who this is, Eye-Boy stops him, because Eye-Boy knows exactly what this is. He knows exactly who this is, and he knows exactly what they're about to walk into. Trying to stop Tommy, but unable to, Tommy goes running, with Eye-Boy chasing after, telling Prodigy that he needs to call Northstar and he needs to call him right now. And Tommy approaching the body, it is the Scarlet Witch. It is Wanda. It is his mother. And he finds her dead. The Scarlet Witch has died. And the last person to be with her, the last one seen with her, was Magneto. And that will be the end of this issue. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments. This will continue on in the trials of Magneto. Now, we've seen that Magneto was the last one to be with her. I very highly doubt it's going to be that simple. It's going to be as easy as Magneto is the one that killed her. You know, Wanda, she has a lot of enemies inside all of mutant kind. So it could be an endless list of names of individuals who could have done this. But I think what I really did enjoy most about this issue in particular, is the development, the story arc of Eye-Boy. I am really enjoying seeing his mutant powers come into their own and him truly be a fighting force. Now, all in all, in the whole Hellfire Gala, I really have enjoyed this line. You know, we have learned a lot of information, and mutant kind is really pushing themselves to the limits. They're pushing themselves out into the solar system. They're claiming this solar system as a mutant solar system, more or less. With the terraforming of Mars, everything has changed. But mutant kind still has many threats from humanity. From Nimrod coming back to the children of the Vault, there are so many things that can completely topple everything the X-Men have been building, everything mutant kind has been building. But yeah, let me know what you guys think down in the comments. If you have not yet, do me a favor, hit that sub button, hit that notification bell, make sure you don't miss any of the awesome content we have coming out, and until the next breakdown.